One. Hello, everyone. This is Gary Wilson, and welcome to this week's live Path to Prosperity webinar. Welcome aboard new and veteran agents and investors. Some of you I've known for several years. Some of you I'm just getting to know you because you're just signed up in the last month or so. But welcome aboard. For the new folks, if this is your first webinar, you're recognized that by default you're in mute mode. We actually do unmute people from time to time. We've done that with Tanya and Louie and Shirley and Matt, several of you, especially when we do like role playing. Tonight, we're not going to be role playing. We will do that, excuse me, probably the third or fourth webinar this month. So a couple of things, or a couple of announcement type things. Next week, I've got a special guest. Greg Hanna is a good friend of mine, and he owns and runs one of the most successful internet security businesses on the planet. Some of his clients are pretty impressive. But he also works with folks that just have like a small business too. Okay, even realtors. He's worked with several realtors too to help you protect you from right now. Number one threat is ransomware. So in any case, that's not what he's going to talk about. He did that on the last podcast I had him on. What he is going to talk about is he created this really awesome process, and I wish I had the book with me here. Shoot, I have it in my car. So I'm going to show you tonight how I do my goal setting and planning. It's different than probably things you've seen before. I'm going to show you the steps I go through and what I do with my coaching students, okay? But Greg has created an actual physical book. I mean, a hardbound binder book that's about this thick per quarter. I mean, it's some serious business. And that's what he uses to measure and track everything. I do that too, using my planner, but he takes it to a whole different level, guys. And he's agreed to come on and show you this. He has his own system, his own program, but for us, we get to see behind the scenes at no extra cost. So look for that for next week. If you are new, back to that, I'm sorry, you can use the chat box to type in your questions, okay? So that you just type in something you want to ask about or make a comment, and everybody will see it. We got nothing to hide here. It's totally open book, open script, and just pretty much what you see is what you get. So in any case, always look for the recording the very next day from Beverly. It's going to have this recording, obviously, but she's also going to give you updates to the schedule, system updates, platform updates, so forth and so on. And then we got some pretty neat stuff coming out here. So one of those things is this. My MIS has recently revamped their website, and they've taken the content, the material only, to create like home study courses, you know, for flipping, buying rentals, managing rentals, wholesaling, soon to come commercial business, okay, including investor agent. What it is simply like the study on your own kind of thing. You don't get the silver level, you don't get the website, My Investor Services website stuff. You don't get the cash buyers report or their community site. You don't get access to me as a trainer. But you know, sometimes people like to have that. So you guys automatically have it anyways. You don't have to worry about that. What I'm getting at is you can now provide that to your clients. So if somebody wants to flip, you can show them some of the basic fundamental material. And if they decide they want to take training, they can do that. And you guys get credit for that. I mean, like financial credit for it. But here's the big benefit. They're not going to be working and operating at a level that you're being trained to work with them. Okay, you follow what I'm saying? So you're working in sync with your clients. They're learning the same stuff the same way that you are. It's just your role is their servant. You're serving them as an investor agent, and they're going to be out there obviously flipping the house or buying the rental. So again, the big benefit to you is you now have good qualified tenants in terms of, you'll know how to qualify them financially, of course, but qualified as far as their level of skill and knowledge. And it's not going to be all that no money down, late night guru stuff. They're going to learn how to do this the right way. Okay. Now you got some really good long-term clients. So there's huge benefit for you being able to do this. MIS is just making it easy for you. So it's like a structure. You don't have to actually do anything. You just make it available to your clients. Okay. So in any case, look for those types of announcements. That one's coming up probably in the next couple of weeks or so, I guess. So you want to participate in that. Now back to this. All right. Here's the subject for tonight. I'm going to show you the process. You're not going to get like every single little detail because that would take days and weeks. The coaching students will tell you it takes a while to master this process. To do it right, it just takes time. I'm just going to show you the steps, and I hope that some of you will do it on your own, attempt it on your own. And if you do want that coaching level, just raise your hand, let me know, and we'll see if we can help you out there. So first things first, we've all seen all different kinds of programs on goal setting and planning, and probably they all work to one degree or another, or they work for some people and other people like other processes. There's dozens of them out there. Okay, I learned over 30 years ago from a guy named Stephen Covey. I'm sorry, Stephen Covey. Excuse me, Stephen Covey. He's since passed away. I learned from him directly. Again, 1989 is when it was, and he came to our bank at the time I was still in banking, and we learned from the master. And over the years, I had additional training and perfected the program. So one of the things he did is he always had us work on our values first. If any of you know Stephen Covey or read his material, he was real big on values. Okay, what are your values? And then you determine what your goals are. There's two areas where we're going to differentiate here from Stephen Covey. The first one is his first area, which is values. Values are absolutely important. You better what your values are. But we actually start with what's called the vision, okay? This is where I want you to start writing notes. Before you ever set goals, you go through what's called a vision exercise to create what we call a vision statement. So those are the key words. Vision exercise, vision statement. Vision statement comes from the vision exercise, okay? The vision exercise is a process whereby you go through a pretty deeply probing process into yourself, okay? Your higher self, your spiritual self, your vision self, whatever you want to call it, okay? This is your connection with God, okay? And if you don't believe in God, just call it something else. Universe, creator. I've studied I've literally read the entire Bible over 3 times. I've taken 14 years of theological studies, but I've also studied the Gita, the Quran, the Torah. I've even studied Buddhism, okay? And I've even studied other people who teach spirituality, but not in the context of religion. In fact, I'll tell you, every religion falls within the context of spirituality, okay? Does that make sense? But not everybody who's spiritual practices any particular religion, okay? That's just what we know about the world. What I'm getting at here is there is a higher self for each of us, okay? And you know that that's true, and here's how you know this. Right now, you're listening to me, you're thinking, your brain is coming up with responses of 1,500 words a minute. What did Gary just say? How do I feel about that? That's true, that's not true. That wasn't my case, Gary, that whatever. You're controlling your mind to be able to process the information, compile it, and come up with responses, even write things down at the same time. You're controlling your mind to do multiple things. Well, here's my question to you. Who is the you that's doing all this controlling? Well, that's the you that we're talking about. Okay, so welcome aboard. What's interesting is that people I take through this process at the coaching level, the 2 most profound responses I get coming out of it are, number one, they tell me, Gary, I actually cried in the process. They cried, and I cried too, but when I did it the first time myself. And they also say, I feel like I met myself for the first time. And it's true. Everybody, and I felt the same. Everybody says the same thing. I feel like I met my real self for the first time. So if that's intriguing to you, here's what you do, okay? You have to first get a location or find a location or create an environment where you can really isolate yourself from the rest of the world. I mean, complete, total, no computer, no phone, no anything, no dog, no cat, no child, no spouse, no external influence at all, other than the immediate environment. You might have a chair and some plants and a window or something like that. What I choose to do is I choose to go outdoors. So I'm in Florida now. I can go outdoors because it's pretty nice out. And not this weekend, the next weekend on the 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st, you're going to not find me too available, okay? I'll make myself available on that Monday and Tuesday, the 20th and 21st for a couple hours in the day. But the reason is I'm going to go through a 4-part process to do this for myself, this vision exercise, goal setting, actions database, and planning. It takes 4 days to do it, okay? Now, I've been doing it for, my gosh, I don't know how many years now, 25 years, okay? So I'm able to do it in 4 days in a row. Most people I teach, it usually takes them a couple of weeks or a month to do this. And I have them do things over again because I need to know that they did it the right way. All right. Step number one, vision exercise. Create the environment or find an environment where you feel inspired and it's quiet, it's calm. If it's outdoors, to me, that's the best place to be because I love the outdoors. Water, trees, birds in the sky, things, whatever. I love the outdoors, and that's where I can feel my peace, okay, and my oneness with God. Now, what I do to prepare it, I'm just telling you what I do, okay? You may have a different way of altering your brainwave activity because that's the requirement. You've got to alter your brainwave activity to get to what we call delta waves, okay? So if you want to study about this, there's tons of books on it. Just read about brainwave activity. There's alpha waves, beta waves, delta waves, theta waves, okay? Ideally, if I can get you to delta wave state, you're going to do really well with this, okay? Some people are able to go to theta. There's very few people in the world that can actually do that for any length of time and do it over and over again. And some of the people that do that were called monks, and they live in the Himalayas up in the hills, isolated from everybody else, okay? Well, typically you and I aren't living like a monk. We're living in a house with other people or an apartment or what have you, okay? And every day we're interacting with other human beings. So back to this, on a temporary basis, and I'm going to have you write this down, it's going to take you typically 2 to 4 hours, 2 to 4 hours for each of these phases, okay? So what happens is when you get this environment, it maybe it's in your home. That's okay. If your thing is and you've got a special place in your home where this works for you, by all means, that's where you go. Some people start off listening to music, calming music to calm them down. Sometimes I'll do that if I'm driving to where I'm going, and then when I get to where I'm going, I don't listen to the music. I find my space, and I start off with some prayer, just good old-fashioned basic prayer, asking for blessings on people. You, by the way, I pray for you every single day, and also guidance, okay? Then I go into what's called silent prayer. This is what most people refer to as meditation. Meditation is nothing more than silent prayer. Silent prayer is this. St. Francis said it perfectly. Silence is God's only voice. The only way we're going to be able to hear what God has to say is to quiet our mind. I don't mean just our mouth, but I mean our mind. And the way we do that is to lower our brainwave activity. This is what we're doing. So this is call it a metaphysical process. Yes, it's somewhat spiritual, but it's also physical. There's real science behind this, okay? What I'm getting at is you need to get yourself into a state where your mind is not controlling things for you right now. Typically your brain is on autopilot and there's 1,500 words a minute going through your brain. You've got to slow that down as much as you possibly can in order to do this process, okay? So once you've accomplished that, and I know some of you feel like I'm leaving a gap here, but the point is this. It's not by design, it's just that you have to experience it. I can't go far enough in plain language what it means to do this, to be in this state. You have to experience it to understand it, okay? So what I'm getting is once you're there, one of the ways you'll know you're there is you'll notice that your breathing is dramatically reduced, okay? Shallower breaths and often long periods between breaths, okay? I've had this measured on myself. I've been able to get to that theta wave state where my breathing is almost non-detectable and your heart rate drops dramatically. That's nothing you want to do on your own, by the way. That's something you need to do with a guide, okay? And there are people who are able to do that on their own, but there's maybe 200 of them in the world that are able to actually do that. Some of you might remember a guy by the name of Yogananda. He came from India to Southern California back in the 30s, and he was able to do that and come out of it, and he was okay. He actually, and this is a true story, by the way, on the day that he died, he knew he was going to die. He was up at a podium, actually told people, I'm going to lay down and have a heart attack. I know what's happening. And he basically, by the way, Buckminster Fuller did the same thing. Awesome story. If you've never read Buckminster Fuller, Bucky Fuller, I suggest you read some of his writing. The guy was an absolute savant. But what happened is he was speaking at I think it was Chicago, and his wife was critically ill. She was actually in a hospital, near death, but nobody really knew him. In any case, he got the call from the hospital saying, we think she's not going to make it through the night. You better get here. So he left the lecture, flew to New York, and got there. He promised his wife well in advance. He said he's going to be in heaven waiting for her. He goes to her hospital bed, and I used to get choked up telling the story because it's such an amazing story. He leaned down and prayed, kneeled by his wife's bed and prayed, and willed himself to die. And he literally died, and moments later, his wife died, and he kept his promise to be in heaven waiting for his wife. So what I'm telling you is this, guys, this is a very real process. It's serious business, and I'm just going to have you get to the delta wave state, because beyond that is beyond my capability, okay? If you want to do this at a coaching level, just let me know, and I'll guide you through it. But here's the point. Once you get to this level, you're going to answer this question. So here's what you write down. I want you to write this question down. On my last day, when I look back upon my life, what do I want to see? Okay, on my last day, when I look back upon my life, what do I want to see? Now I'm going to do a quick pause here while you're writing that down. Then you're going to write comma, and how do I want others to remember me? Okay, how do I want to see my life in retrospect, and how do I want others to remember me? And think of this in terms of like you're going to watch a movie of your life. On your last day, you're going to watch a movie of your life, and you get to write the script, okay? A couple of key pointers here. You're going to get in what's called a flow state, okay? Athletes call it getting in the zone. You ever watch Michael Jordan play basketball? The guy was absolutely phenomenal. In fact, you can get a recording of his last 3 minutes of his last game, and he had no reason to play the way he was playing. He's literally just dominated the court in the last 3 minutes on his last game. Everybody assumed he was going to cruise in there and cruise out. Everybody would cheer, and he'd leave the floor, and everybody would finish the game, blah, blah, blah. Not Michael Jordan. At the 3 minute mark, there was an errant pass on the other team. They were beating the Bulls, by the way. Errant pass went back. He outran everybody, ran back there, grabbed that ball, threw it back across the court to one of his team members, ran down the court, received another pass coming in from that same person, went up and scored a basket. He played like that for the last 3 minutes. And he made sure everybody in that audience and every other player on that court knew who Michael Jordan was, and they're going to remember who he was for the rest of their lives. He was not going to go out of there in cruise mode. He was going to show them what a champion does. And a champion never quits. They never give up. And they play full out 100% to the last second, okay? So here's what I'm getting at. You would apply that same heart, that same passion to this process, okay? No limits. When you write your vision statement, it should include a lot of other things, not just making money. I know you're all here because you want me to teach you how to make money, and I'm going to do that. But it's only part of a bigger picture, okay? It's part of your vision. Here's what I'm getting at. I've had people come back and say, Gary, I wrote down that I want to play the piano. I don't know where it came from. And guess what? I'm saying, I think you should play the piano. It's your vision. This is God speaking to you. This is his vision for you. I've had people say all kinds of interesting things that were completely beyond what they were anticipating. So the key here is to not write what you think is going to happen. The key is to write what you want to happen with no limits, no limitations, okay? And you'd be surprised sometimes in what you write. In any case, when you do that, you're creating what's called a vision statement. You get in the flow, and I'll give you some pointers here. Number one is if you're concerned about what do I write about, number one, don't just get that question out of your mind right now because you're not even there yet, right? But if that happens while you're sitting down in the process, you simply write what you observe. Just start writing what you're observing. A bird flew by, you saw a fish jump in the water, whatever the case is, okay? Maybe you heard a dog bark, right? I heard dog barking. When you start writing, going from here to here, it's a cathartic process. And what it does is it's a mind-body connection, and get your hand moving. And it's like opening up the faucet. You just open up the faucet a little bit. Now the water can flow through. And it's literally like a flow. The words are flowing through you. And this is what professional writers say happens. They get into the flow. They're not even aware of what time it is. They're really not even aware of what they're writing sometimes. They'll say, I'm just writing and it's just coming out, okay? And I know people who've written complete books in a matter of hours, and they'll say they never even edited the book. They just simply, they edited it for spelling, of course, and grammar. But content-wise, what came out was exactly what you and I read on the shelves, okay? So that's what we call the flow. And you keep going until you've literally exhausted yourself. There's no more to write. Nothing more is coming through. And when you stop, you'll notice your hand's probably pretty sore, okay? In most cases, it's 2 to 4 hours. I generally take longer. but I've been doing it for 25 years, okay? In the beginning, you might only take 2 hours, okay? But you should write probably 3 to 4 pages, all right? And I can tell you guys this, right? I'm gonna preach to you here for a second. The degree to which you devote yourself to this process is the degree to which you're going to benefit from the process, okay? So this is something that will impact almost everything you do going forward for a long period of time, right? So if you're ever wondering how it is I do what I do and why I do it, I just told you. That's how I do it. That's part one. All right, everybody okay so far? So give me some comments here. Tell me what you're thinking. Because I know whenever I do this, some people are like, holy crap, I never even knew this stuff existed, or this is like outer space type stuff. It's really not. But I don't mind. I'll take any comments you have. I just want to know what you're thinking right now, because I want some of you to actually take this to heart and do this for yourselves. It's one of the most wonderful gifts you could ever give to anybody else, okay? So let's see here. That's step number one. Step number two. Separate day, typically the next day or maybe 2 to 3 days later, okay? You've now got your vision statement. You're going to go to the same place and create the same environment, eliminating external influence, people, technology, everything. You just want to not allow it to be part of this moment, okay? This is something you're doing. It's one of the best things you can ever do for yourself. So I suggest take it seriously, okay? Now, you have to get in the same delta wave state, okay? Whatever process works for you, music, prayer, meditation, whatever it is, that's what I do, okay? Get into that state, and then here's the question you write down that you're going to answer. You're going to answer this question. What goals does this person have? And yep, you should probably have your vision statement with you. Maybe you reread your vision statement as you go into your delta wave state, okay? And then go into your delta wave state after you've read your vision statement. And then another pad of paper, legal pad of paper, separate page, the question is, what goals does this person have? And you just start writing. You're in the flow, just let it flow. And I'm going to give you some pointers here. And again, you can play this recording over and over again. I mean, that's just live now, but you can replay it as many times as you want and take more notes. But some critical things here. You're operating from what we call the subconscious mind level. You're not operating from the conscious mind level. You're conscious of things around you. It's not like you're not awake or anything. You're definitely conscious of dogs barking and things like that. But you bypass that analytical brain for the moment to be in a subconscious mind, right? So what I'm getting at is here. You don't want to filter what you're writing down. You don't want to analyze it. You don't want to critique it. You don't want to question it. You don't want to try to prioritize it or whatever. You don't want to try to determine how big it is or how small. You don't want to try to even determine what it's going to take to do the goal, to achieve the goal. You just simply want to write. You're literally identifying the goals. So that's the key. You're identifying the goals. Later on, I'll show you how to categorize and prioritize the goals. Right now, you're basically doing a brain dump. And again, probably 2 to 4 pages, okay? Maybe even more. And the question is, what goals does this person have? The person you just identified the previous day in the vision exercise, okay? And you'll have things again like I want to play the piano. That's a goal. I want to be a grandparent. Okay. Well, I don't know how you can manifest that per se, but hopefully your children or maybe you can adopt or something like that. But I've seen all kinds of things and they're all good. These are it's just it's one of the most beautiful things in life actually. So write these goals down. Later on, I'll show you how to categorize and prioritize them. Okay. So you're just going to get in the flow and let it flow and keep writing until the divine guidance is now get to the end, and you'll stop and you'll think, my gosh, my hand is throbbing. And while you're writing, you probably weren't even aware of your hand throbbing. Okay. So in any case, that's the goals part. Separate day. I suggest it's the very next day if possible, but no more than a week later. Okay. I know we're all busy. Some of you have other jobs you're doing. You got children and parents you care for. Just do this for yourself because you deserve it. Okay. You're a valuable, worthy person. And the rest of people in your life are going to be grateful you've gone through this process because you're going to shine like a Christmas tree. Okay. Now, so that's the goals. Number 2. Number 3 is, guess what? We're not actually planning yet. Okay. That's going to be step number 4. Step number 3 is you're going to create what's called an actions database, okay? Hold on just one second. Actions database, okay? Here what you're doing is, well, here's the question. Again, you write this question down at the top of another page on a legal pad. What actions need to be taken for these goals to be achieved? What actions need to be taken for these goals to be achieved, okay? And you're going to go back to your goals. Again, you might want to reread your goals before you start the process to kind of get it fresh in your mind and everything, all right? And same principles, you have to be in that delta wave state. So I would not start this process unless you've successfully achieved a delta wave state, which again requires you to be in an environment that's quiet and inspiring, okay? So when you answer the question, again, you're getting in the flow and you don't want to critique the answers. You don't want to analyze them. You don't want to try to prioritize them. You're simply identifying actions that need to be taken to achieve the goals. And here's another interesting characteristic about creating the actions database. It's this. You know how, like right now, some of you are probably thinking, well, is buying a fourplex an action? Well, technically not. It's more like a goal or an objective that requires a lot of actions, okay? But let's say you think to yourself, my gosh, all I can write down is buy a fourplex. That's your action. Well, that's okay. I will go ahead and write it. Remember, don't critique or analyze it, just write it. And here's why I'm telling you to write it. In this particular case, it's an interesting phenomenon. What happens is your subconscious mind has a file system, okay? I mean, I'm using common terminology to explain how this works. The way your memory works is in layers. Like think of a tree. A tree has a root system, okay? And then the root system comes together at the ground level and forms a trunk of the tree, right? You go up the tree trunk, you have major branches like branch networks going out in different directions, okay, different heights. As you go up in the height of the tree and out the major branches, you have smaller and smaller branches, and eventually you have twigs, and eventually you have leaves, okay? So here's what happens is when you write down on your actions database, buy a fourplex, all of a sudden your subconscious brain is going to kick into the next level, and say, well, guess what? In order to buy that duplex, you've got to secure financing. You've got to have an inspection. You've got to have an appraisal. You've got to have an offer accepted. You've got to actually make an offer. You've got to identify the property to make the offer on. You've got to look at several properties to identify the one property to make an offer. To look at several properties, you've got to scan the marketplace to see which ones are either available now or you can make available by contacting the owners. In order to contact the owners, you've got to research. Where are the properties? Who are the owners? You see what I'm saying? We just went from trunk level to branch, smaller branch to twig level to the leaf level, okay? It's the same way your memory works in reverse, what we call recall function. See, memory is two parts, storage and retrieval, or storage and recall, okay? When people say I have a bad memory, what they're referring to is the recall function. The storage part is pretty much intact. In fact, you can't screw with it. And if you have some physiological disability like dementia, Alzheimer's, obviously that's different. But assuming you're sound mind and body and healthy, your storage process is 100% intact. Every thought you've ever had, everything you ever saw, everything you ever tasted, everything you ever felt, everything you ever heard, okay, is stored in your memory. A lot of people just think, well, I don't remember when I was born, because who does? Well, believe it or not, it's there, okay? Now, the recall function is what the challenge is, and you can actually improve your recall function by going through this actions database exercise. It's like exercising a muscle. You're exercising those synapses and those neuron connections in your brain by going through this actions database. I just want to give you the explanation of how it works and why you should do it, because it gives you other benefits. You'll find yourself, when you do this exercise, you'll find your recall function improving, guys. Just know this. In fact, I want some of you to write me an email saying, hey, I did this, and I can remember things more readily now than I could even 2 weeks ago. It's true. It happens to me too. It's amazing. I'm able to remember names now like I could never do before, right? I remember faces, and it's an amazing thing to do for yourself to improve that part of your memory, because you can do all, there's cases of people being able to memorize entire phone books, okay, because of stuff like this. So back to this. The technical requirements are, again, don't criticize, don't analyze, don't guess, don't wonder, don't question, don't do any of those things. Don't try to plan yet. That's a separate function. Right now, we're just literally doing a brain dump, a mind dump of all the actions required in the example of buying a fourplex, okay? Now, you get all that down there. And by the way, this is one that you want to do in pencil. The vision exercise generally is in pen. You can do it in pencil if you want to. Goals is generally in pen, but you can do it in pencil too. The actions database, you definitely want to do in pencil because it's a living, breathing document. In fact, you're going to keep it with you, right? Remember I just showed you my, my daily planner, all right? So these are the daily sheets, right? In the back here, I've actually got my actions database. I have my goals too, okay? Now, the actions database is a living, breathing document because as you go through the planning process, which I'm going to show you next, okay, you're going to keep adding to your actions database, and you'll also be potentially crossing things out, okay? So let's go ahead and move into that phase. Everybody okay so far? I know we're going into some pretty deep stuff here, but I got to tell you, I do this every year, and I wouldn't be where I am if not for this process, and many others will say the same thing. So this is Shika saying, I love it as I am a clinical hypnotherapist. Oh, cool. I'm not qualified to do that kind of stuff, Shika, although I do take people through guided meditations and things like that, you know, group prayer, and prayer works, guys. I got to tell you, I don't care if you're a believer or not. Prayer works, all right? I'm living proof, okay? Let's see, Adrian's sounds interesting and deep. What sure is Adrian? Shika, also certified past life regression and natal interline and a long time meditator. There you go. Thanks, Shika. I'm going to have to contact you separately. So in any case, Augustine, I think this is great. I'm just now looking into this, but it's hard to do. Glad to hear someone I actually know is doing this and has been doing this for a while. It gives me hope. Thank you, Gary. Well, thank you, Augustine. I'm glad to be able to introduce you to this. And maybe, hopefully, some of you will say, hey, Gary, I want to actually have you do this with me and do the coaching stuff. So I'll be glad to do that too. I've actually just took on a brand new student, generally like one per month. I just took on someone in December. So I generally don't have any more than like 12 people at that level. But in any case, so back to this. So far we've done what's called the vision statement through the vision exercise, number one. Number two is we created a goals database, okay? And number three is we created an actions database. Now we're gonna go into step 4, which is the planning part, okay? Now the planning part, again, I use my Franklin Covey planner, okay? I know people that just basically create spreadsheets and do that. Next week, I'm gonna show you what Greg Hanna uses. He's gonna show you himself actually, so you get to see what he does on the planning side of things, what tool he uses. My suggestion is this. I'm not saying you should use Franklin Covey Planner. That's just what I use, okay? You may find another product out there that allows you to effectively capture your goals and determine your plans, okay? Whatever it is, you use what works for you, all right? Mine I get every year, costs me about $40, and I get the inserts for the year. It has everything in there, every single day, daily, weekly, monthly, and for the whole year, okay? So here's what we do. I'm tempted to have you put your pencils and pens down for just a second, because this is the third way where we differentiate ourselves. The actions database is the second way. Most planners, most systems don't account for that extra step of determining the actions ahead of time before you plan. It's going to save you a ton of time. It'll help you be more structured and not be caught in a situation where you're like, what do I do now? That won't happen. When you have your actions database, you can always go to your actions database and see what to do, okay? Okay, back to the planning, step number 4. The first thing we do is we go back 2 steps. We go back past the actions, back to the goals. You're gonna get your goals database out, and I'm gonna take you through the process first of categorizing, okay? We used to have a lot more categories, and I got away from that. It was just too complex. Even for me, we broke it down to 3 simple categories for goals. Category 1 is what you're doing now, the now goals, what you're working on now, or you know you should be working on now, or you want to work on now, the now goals, number 1. Number 2 are the goals you want to achieve in the next 365 days. In this case, 2020. In 2020, I want to achieve these things. Those are category 2, the 1-year goals. Category 3 is quite simply everything else, okay? Category 3 is the things that are important to you. You want to achieve these things. You want to accomplish these goals, but there are other things that are more important to do right now and this year. So you simply put them asleep. You don't get rid of them. You simply put them asleep. Imagine a stovetop with 4 burners. This goes back on one of the back burners, okay? It's still there. It's just in sleep mode, okay? And an example of that would be like at one point I wanted to learn all these different languages, 12 different languages. So I've learned, obviously, some of you know I was born in Germany, okay? So I've learned German, of course, English. I'm here in the US and Canada, French, and Spanish. My mother's family's French and German. My father's family's Scottish and Irish, so that's why I probably speak English. And I learned Spanish just for fun because I like to go to Mexico. Been to Mexico 8 times, right? And actually what I do is I immerse myself before I go, like literally for 2 weeks at a time, just nothing but Spanish or nothing but German or nothing but French. Then when I go to the country, I still struggle, but usually within a week or so, I can kind of hold my own, okay? One of the challenges with languages, by the way, is you got to keep up with it. It's definitely, it's one of the, people say it's like riding a bike, you never forget. Not so with language. You got to practice it, okay? So there's clubs you can join to speak only French or Spanish or whatever, okay? But back to this. That might be a goal that's important to you, but maybe it's not critical for this year. So you put that one on the back burner. I want to learn a foreign language, okay? Over the years, I've eliminated some of the languages. I thought at one point I would learn Russian, Japanese, at least 2 of the Chinese dialects, Mandarin and Cantonese. I was never been able to get around to them. So I just thought, you know what, I'm okay. I can go to Europe and hold my own. I go to South America, Central America and hold my own there. And I'm okay. So I may eventually put them back on the list. I don't know. But right now, after several years of keep putting them off, I decided that I'm just not going to, they're not part of the picture right now. Okay, current day goals would be things that if you accomplish this now goal, it will make other goals easier or maybe even no longer necessary, okay? This is part of Gary Keller's The One Thing book. Awesome book, by the way. So those are the now goals. These are things like, you know what, this isn't a critical path of something I want to do by the end of the year, therefore I have to do this now. And by the way, maybe it'll allow me to do one of my future goals too, right? So you identify those. And the 1-year goals are the things that are like, you know what, if you really want to elevate your where you are in life right now, like our best thinking got us where we are today, you and me and all of us, right? In order to be at another level, you've got to think at that level. You're not going to go there materially and then your thinking changes. Your thinking is going to change and then you'll go there materially. So a lot of people make the mistake in life is an opportunity will come up and they'll say, you know what, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, blah, 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 blah. They're just saying no to progress and success. All right. The reality is that successful people say yes to opportunity. Then they start thinking at that level and then materially they catch up. All of a sudden they have the bigger house, they have more money, whatever the case is. Okay. That's how it works. It's a leap of faith, but that's how it works. Okay. So back to this, let's just take a 1-year goal. I'm going to take you through an example of how you actually do the planning. And we're right on time. I'm going to be able to accomplish this in the next 11 minutes, okay? Let's take that fourplex, for example. The one I used is the example early on. If you want to buy your next fourplex or your first fourplex by December 31st, 2020, you write that down. December 31st, 2020, own fourplex, okay? That you capture that from your goals database. You're now in your planning document and you plot that down there. You plot out in advance and want to work your backwards, okay? So that's the 1-year goal. In order to accomplish that goal, you want to break that goal down into what we call the big rock into 4 bigger, four smaller rocks that are still pretty big. These are your 4 quarters. So in every year, there's obviously 4 quarters, 3 months per quarter. So you take that fourplex, for example, and say, what are the 4 main things that I have to accomplish to achieve that goal of owning the fourplex? Well, one of them might be securing financing, right? That's one big chunk, one of the big chunks. Another one might be, identifying the team around you, who, inspector, insurance guy, contractor, electrician, plumber, roofer, property management team, realtor, right? The realtor, the investor agent. Okay, that might be one big chunk, identifying, building your team. Another one might be, say getting one under contract. That's a big deal. Getting it under contract, that means everything else happens, right? So getting it under contract might involve an awful lot of things, okay? That's the third one, all right? So that's first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, you actually close on the property, right? Now what you do is this, you got 4 quarters. Now it doesn't make sense to go out to the fourth quarter and plot all that out, because you haven't yet achieved the third big chunk or the second big chunk or the first big chunk, okay? So we're now gonna take the first quarter, right, of the 12-month process of buying a fourplex. We're gonna take the first chunk, the first quarter, which is 3 months, We're gonna break that chunk down into 3 chunks. The first of the 4 big chunks, we break down into 3 smaller chunks. These are your months. Let's just say January, February, March, okay? And by the way, that first chunk, I forgot to tell you this, was probably, going through the analysis process to determine what type of property you want and where you want to buy it and that kind of thing. So let's say that's the first quarter, the first 3 months. So by the end of the 3rd month, you probably should have your selection criteria down to a couple of areas to focus on and a few types of properties like fourplexes, for example, okay? And then right before that, the second month might be, you've got to do you've got to identify the realtor, for example, the real estate investor agent to help you get into the properties and contact the owners, all that kind of stuff. And I'm just kind of ad-libbing as we're going along here. And the first month might be doing their research to determine, number one, what you have available to you, where your credit score is, what do you have in the way of cash, a line of credit, or your credibility, okay? How much can you borrow? Are you pre-approved? Whatever the case is. Also, you want to understand what you want to build your knowledge of that process. Well, if you think you want to buy a fourplex, you darn sure better study rental properties. How do you actually invest in rental properties? So you would get the book, for example, Rental Profits Without the Pain. That's that was the first book I wrote, by the way. The second one was Investor Agent. So you study what it means to buy a fourplex, okay? So studying, understanding your timing, motivation, readiness, willingness, ability, right? Timing, motivation, readiness, willingness, ability. And also your, what you're, developing your skills to actually own a fourplex. Another part of that first month might be, going out and driving by some areas. You identify the areas, you go out and drive by them, make sure they're what you think they are, and do the analysis as far as demographics and social graphics. What is the area known for? Is there a hospital nearby? What are the schools like? Is there a college nearby? Is there a military base nearby? Is there shopping nearby? All these things are critical to owning a rental. So you want to determine all of that. So there's a lot going on in this first quarter. So now you break that down into you take the first month of the 3 months of the first quarter. Now we're going to take the first month, let's say this is January. We're going to break that down into 4 weeks, okay? 4 smaller tiny chunks, 1 per week, all right? And that may be some of the details I just described there. So what you do now is you just take, and by the way, at the monthly level, you do want to plot out the month at a finer level of detail, not specific daily stuff, but high level stuff, okay? Throughout the month, you're going to accomplish the things you want to start to plot those out throughout the next 30 days. What we're going to focus on right now is the very next week, the next 7 days, 7 days, okay? The next week. This is where the rubber meets the road, guys. This is where you actually plot out and plan at the specific daily level and within each day at the hourly level, okay? All right, and how we do this is this. What database did we already create in advance to help us determine what individual action steps need to be taken to be able to accomplish our objectives? So go ahead and type the answer. Let's see who's on board here. What database did we already create that we can go to fill in the hourly slots on a daily basis for the next week to achieve some objectives here? So let's see who gets the right answer here. I know it's going to take you a couple of seconds to type in, but I want you to participate here. Go ahead and don't be afraid if you're being right or wrong. You just want to action plans. Thank you, Adrian. We're going to go to our actions database and start pulling actions that are appropriate for what we want to achieve, what objectives we want to achieve over the next 7 days. So you plot out the 7 days. Now you take the very next day and you go into a final level of detail. You literally, off to the right, you write down names and numbers of people you need to call. You got to call, maybe you got to call a local housing inspector to find out if you can add a 5th unit, right, to a fourplex. Maybe you call the local zoning officer to see, well, what's being planned to be built in this area. You want to find out, okay, you're going to buy a fourplex. What's going to happen in the zoning plans in the next 3 years, 10 years, and 30 years? All right, so you actually get very, very specific. You write down what you want to, what actions you're going to take, and any supporting things you need to write down. You did that on the adjacent page. Literally detail level, so there's no guessing, no wondering what do you have to do. You don't have to go look anything up. You know, just it's there for you already, and all you do is execute. All right, now I'm going to give you some pointers here. Okay, a couple of pointers. As you go through your day, you want to check off your actions. Okay, let me see if I can find. You want to check these things off as you go through and accomplish them. All right. It's a way to reward yourself. So what I'm getting at is this. As you check those things off, you're planting a seed in your mind that what you're doing is working. You're rewarding yourself. You've achieved every little action you take is in itself a little miniature goal. So you reward yourself by checking that item off. You check it out as you go through the day. At the end of the day, you want to look at your action plans for that day. Hopefully you got them all done. Chances are you'll have a few left over. You now need to go look through the next week. You don't want to put anything off more than a week out. Just know that. The reason we plot out a week in advance is you have the opportunity, if you can't do something tomorrow that you couldn't do today, perhaps you can do it the next day or the day after. The point is, if it's really important and it needs to be done this chunk this week before the next chunk can be addressed the following week and then eventually the next month, you got to do this, okay? You got to make it happen. So at the end of the day, you basically finish up that day and you adjust the next day or the next couple of days to account for things you couldn't accomplish. Now, this is going to help you get very clear on your planning and very sophisticated and very disciplined. What you'll find is most people plan way too much. When you first start this process, they're like putting all this stuff in, boy, I'm going to get a lot done today. Well, guess what? Other things will pop up, like a flat tire, or you get a call from the school because your child's sick at school or something like that. So here's what I want you to write down. This is what you do. You don't plot out every single hour of every single day. In any given day, leave at least 2 hours available to absorb the unexpected things, okay? At a minimum 2 hours, actually. I mean, I've gotten to the point now where I carve out about 3 hours because I just know how it goes, right? But that'll allow you to absorb, the phone calls you didn't expect, the emails you didn't expect, whatever happens, the dentist appointment you go and then you're in 2 hours instead of 1 hour. But what it does is when you create that spare time, it allows you to stay on track and not constantly deflate yourself, not constantly disappoint yourself by not achieving everything you want to achieve. So account for that by plotting it in your daily plan. All right. Now, let's say you go through your day and you don't have anything happen. Everything's perfect. And God bless you, because that's very rare. And you got some spare time. What do? You keep a book with you because you should always be learning. One of your action items every single day, by the way, should be learning. Right here. For me, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I wish I could show you this. Actually, we'll show you. All right. So here's what I do. This stuff right here, the top part down to here is all in pen. It's all in pen. These are things that must get done. And in here, you'll see prayer, meditation, exercise, gratitude statement, forgiveness statement, learning, teaching, right? Love I spend time with my family, profiting, I profit from the business. Learning is in there. And I don't let the day go by until I learn. So what I'm suggesting is always keep something with you. You can study, a video you can watch, an audio you can listen to, a book you can read. Okay. Or also, if you're like me, you're constantly on the road, or your family's all over the world like mine. Like I got family from California to New York and everywhere in between. I got family in Europe, family in Canada. I'll take that time sometimes, and I'll just call people out of the blue. Aunt Nikki, totally surprise her, and it's a wonderful thing to be able to do that. So it gives you an opportunity to do something that's really important, which is keep up with your family. So what I'm getting at is plot out that spare time. If you don't end up needing for something like urgent, use it for something either productive like learning, or something really fulfilling like contacting family members. Okay. Now I'm going to give you one more tip here before we start to wrap this up. At the end of the day, I do this myself, by the way, and I know other super successful people, we all do the same thing. At the end of the day, I don't really go to bed till 10 o'clock. I mean, I'll read and things like that for next hour just for fun. But let's say it's about 9:45. I'm not going to just quit. I'm going to look back in my actions database. I'm going to pull something out. Maybe for the next week, I said I was going to do it next Monday, for example. If it's 5 minutes and I can do it right now, I'm going to do it right now. We call this the 5-minute rule, okay? Take an extra 5 minutes at the end of every day and do one more thing, take one more action. And let's do the math on that, okay? 5 minutes per day. Whoops, hang on a second. Some of you are probably faster at this than me, but let me just go to my calculator. Okay, calculator. So 5 minutes times 365 is 1,825 minutes, all right? Divided by 60 minutes in an hour, so divided by 60, that's 30 hours. That's more than a day. In any given year, I've been able to accomplish. So 30 hours, most people maybe do at best 5 to 6 hours of good real work per day. That means I've probably just created 5 to 6 more days for myself of productivity over and above everybody else in the world. If you're wondering how successful people achieve things, it's doing stuff like this. 5 extra minutes to do one more thing, to position yourself to do more and get ahead in life, okay? Now, in any case, one more thought on this planning process. We worked it backwards. Let's say you work it backwards and you realize you need more time. Well, what you do is you now plot it out going forwards, okay? So you work it backwards, work it forwards. If it ends up being 13 or 14 months, that's okay. The point is that we set a year, but if it ends up being 13 or 14 months, that's okay. As long as you have a reasonable, effective plan to accomplish the goal, you're more likely to achieve the goal, okay? So in any case, guys, that's it for tonight. I hope you like this stuff. I do this every single year, first webinar of the year. Next week, we'll allow Greg to come on board and show you how he does the planning part himself. And if you want to use his system, by all means do it. I think it's awesome myself. I'm actually going through a program with him now where he's taken me and some other mastermind members through the process of how he uses that. I think you should participate in that. The following week, we're going to go back into some actions you should take right now in the first month with your database. Okay, then we'll get into some role playing the last week of the month. So God bless you all. Thank you for being on board tonight on this weekly webinar, one of my favorite ones of the year. And for those of you who are really serious about this and you're intrigued and interested, shoot me a message, let me know, and we'll see if we can help you out further. So you guys take care of yourselves. I will see you next week on Tuesday the 14th, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Mountain Time, or Arizona, depending on if you're in Arizona. But have a beautiful week. Have a good weekend. And give yourself time and every day to enjoy this beautiful thing we call life. Okay? Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.